Welcome. All right. Welcome, Slava.
Hey friend, how are you?
Doing great. Doing great. So good to have you here. We're live with Community for Conscious Living, Self-Care for the Soul podcast with Svava Brooks, who is an absolutely beautiful human being, a trauma recovery therapist, coach, and she's going to share with us today about self-love and self-compassion. Self-love is one of those terms that we throw around a lot, but she's going to talk to us about what it really means when we get down to the practice of it and the true meaning of it, and how to find it for ourselves and really live it. So let me tell you a little bit about Svava before she gets started. Svava is a survivor of child sexual abuse, and she is a co-founder of a nationwide child sexual abuse prevention and education organization in Iceland called Lot Ephraim. Did I say that correctly?
Close enough. The translation is straight talk. So
okay, straight talk. Wonderful. I practiced that because I know last time I think I butchered it a little bit worse. Okay. Slava is also a certified instructor and facilitator for Darkness to Light Stewards of Children, as well as a certified crisis intervention specialist, a certified positive discipline parent educator, and a Bellanet teen support group facilitator. She's a certified TRE provider and an abuse survivor coach. She has authored several books, and I'll let her tell us about those as she goes along today. She leads an online community of survivors to restore their connections and with self-love and empowerment, and helps people to find their center again and their self-love and to thrive in their lives. So thank you again for being here, Slava.
thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I appreciate, your heart and how you walk in this world and your passion for, you speak my language, so it's always a privilege to hang out with you. So thank you, my friend.
Thank you so much. I second that on speaking the same language. I love reading your posts and everything that you share in your groups and that you offer to people, and yeah, definitely resonates with my heart as well.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Svava, in your words, you want to talk to us first about your journey with self-love and how you came about it. Maybe that'll give us an idea of what that means in terms of how we can apply that to our own lives.
Yes, thank you. It's a big question, right?
Right.
But you and I, go ahead.
I was just going to say, sometimes we can define these terms, right? I've studied Sufism for 25 years, and one of the sayings in Sufism, and this is, I think, one vegan speaking to another here, but it's a story, is that you can hold up a jar of honey and you can tell someone about its thickness and its sweetness and its golden color and all of these things, but until they actually taste the honey and feel the effects of the honey and the taste of the honey, they don't know what honey is. And I think the same is true with self-love. So it's, I think, going to be more impactful if you share your story first.
Okay, well, thank you. I mean, that was very powerful, very short and sweet, because it's actually one of those things, we talk about and we throw those concepts out there a lot, self-love, self-care, self-compassion, right? Mm-hmm. Some of those terms feel very lofty, especially for trauma survivors who, someone like myself who really had no idea what love was or what self-care or self-compassion looked like or felt like, sounded like. And if anything, what I thought was love was not what I really wanted to go after, right? It had caused me more harm than good. Mm-hmm. And I had been abused by the people that I thought loved me. Right? I'd been harmed by people that I thought cared for me and were actually trying to keep me safe, or, modeling what a good parent should look like, right?
Mm-hmm. Really
So
skews the perception of what love is in general, much less how to love ourselves.
absolutely. And so it was actually, it took me a long time to understand why I almost repelled, like, was always moved away from the things that maybe were good for me, were, caring or healthy or loving or kind, because I didn't trust it, right? It was a foreign concept. And because, again, growing up in a house where I never went to bed feeling safe, there was domestic violence in the house. I believe my stepfather had groomed my mother. She was a young single woman with 2 young kids, desperate, right, to find a partner. And he was very charming, very, attractive, and kind of found his way into her life. And so I believe that, my mom being shut down, being trauma survivor herself, right? I was raised by a mother that was not present in her body, or let alone her heart. She knew how to keep me fed, right? And keep me, doing all the right things that, good family, right, should be doing. But when it came to really being seen, really being heard, really being nurtured, really know that even that I mattered.
Yeah.
There was a huge disconnect. So, and, because trauma was so prevalent growing up, I mean, it was basically the water I swam in my whole life. I had no idea the impact of it until I really started my healing. And it wasn't until in those circles with other survivors that I looked around and I recognized, oh, it isn't, it isn't just because I'm bad or broken that I can't do some of those things, right? It's like more and more I could see myself in other people's struggles. Like I was a control freak. I was, a high achiever. I was incredibly hard on myself, but in my head, it was like, no, I just want things a certain way, right? They just had to be a certain way.
Yeah.
So, which, I didn't recognize how incredibly hard I was being on myself. There was very little compassion. There was very little kindness for myself. Yes. I literally picked up where my stepfather left off.
Wow.
With especially his, the physical, and the emotional abuse, which I think was the worst part of it all. And also because I grew up in a home where things weren't talked about, right? No one heard me. No one listened. So I did not know how to even listen to myself, because I had no inner images or experiences or embodied experience that I could reflect on. Oh yeah, I do know what it looks like and feels like to be really seen, to be really heard, to be really cared for.
Yes.
Because that's how we learn to care for ourselves. If no one shows us how to care for us, we don't know how. And also the people out here didn't care a whole lot well for themselves either. So then it wasn't something that I thought I even needed for a long time, because nobody else is caring for themselves. People were just working hard.
Right. So you had it in your role model plus your experience. It's the double templating there.
Exactly. Yeah. So my path towards, just like breaking that ice a little bit, like something opened up, and more and more as I understood that I was just a textbook example of an adult that was harmed as a child. There was nothing wrong with me. I read myself in all these trauma books. It's like, yep, that's me. And then I'm like, okay, we can predict who we become because of what happens to us, right? Chances are there's something that we can do to change it. If I learn to be this way, maybe I can learn to be different.
Yes. And I just want to say, I think there's a lot of beauty also in just seeing that, okay, this isn't me being broken. This is me being pretty normal under the circumstances that I've been given in my life. I mean, if it is such a pattern that it's written in the same way across so many different books, and I can see myself here, and I can see myself here, and see myself here. Okay, so this is my body, my nervous system, my mental capacity functioning in the best way that it knows how under the circumstances. I'm not broken. I'm normal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if anything, it slowly over time, right? Once I resisted taking responsibility for me, now that I recognize no one is going to come doing the rescue, no one is going to come heal me, no one is going to come and say, we're sorry. Never, right? It's like, okay, now that I know all this, now what, right? It's like I had to turn to me and, okay, how can I take responsibility? I can't change the past, but I want to change the journey of what could happen. I learned about the ACE study. I learned about the impact of trauma, right, on our nervous system. Like, you know, I have a pretty high ACE score. And so it really forced me in a way that, you know, honoring my body that has done a beautiful job keeping me safe, protecting me. And always, anything that I'm doing is always in service of my survival. I'm always doing the best I can. And so learning to work with, you know, with my body, caring for my body, right? Appreciating my body. That was really, you know, there was a turning point also. There's all these, you know, aha moments or these crossroads that we have where it kind of dawned on me that really I recognized that I was here to learn about love. It really kind of just dropped in one day, one of those moments where you feel like you were conversing with God or spirit or whatever you believe in. It's like, okay. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to sign up for that. I'm going to do whatever it takes to really understand, you know, what love is and what it means to be loved as well. And I also recognized that the loving had to come from me. So reconnecting with my body, coming into my body, becoming the parent, right, and the protector that I didn't have, right? You know, reparent myself, go through the developmental stages with myself.
Yes.
Was really the path to really deeply caring for self, like that self-care.
Yes.
Not a chore anymore. Not a burden.
Yeah.
Not something that I resent.
Nice. Yes. Right. Can you, I'm going to just interrupt for a second because I know I get into this conversation a lot with people, and can you give an example of something that we commonly do that is continuing a pattern, the unhealthy pattern that you've described, that is kind of on a day-to-day thing that we, you know, kind of get into where we either bounce out of ourselves or we disregard and push through, those kind of things that would be an example of a place where we have an opportunity to apply self-care techniques, for example. That makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm happy to share
or where we may be missing.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm happy to share, like, you know, my practice, because and that's why you mentioned I've written a couple of books, and both of them are workbooks that are 365-day guides, right? Because making that shift from surviving to thriving, I recognized it had to be a daily intention, right? Because, you know, 90% of what we do on autopilot. That's actually what our bodies are hardwired to do, to protect us. And just, they want minimal intervention from us. Your body's like, please don't get in the way. Let me just do what I know how to do. You go watch TV or whatever, right? Exactly. So it actually takes quite a bit of energy to intervene on some of those habits that maybe were developed as a coping strategy. So you asked for an example, right? Something happens. We all of a sudden we have way more things on our list than we expected for that day. And then we get a call from a friend. So it's just like, all these things start to tug on us. And what's the first thing that goes off our list, if it even makes it onto our list, is our self-care. And we tell ourselves, we don't have time. And we have to take care of other people. We have to, all those things to do. And especially,
sometimes,
go ahead.
Sometimes the self-care could be something even as minimal as taking a lunch break, or, getting a drink of water, or getting up and going to the bathroom when you have to, if you're taking care of other people or working or whatever, right?
Exactly. So it is as simple as that, right? It's to just, and actually it's interesting you talked about lunch break, because I have a young adult daughter who just started working at a new workplace, and I was appalled. She was like, nobody takes lunch.
Wow.
And I'm like, what? And she's like, yeah, it's the expectation. Everybody just brings their food into their lunch, at their computer. And I said, that's not acceptable. I said, you go be the person who has lunch. It's like, it's by the law, right? It's like, this isn't even about self-care, right? Yeah. Anyways, but
and you increase your productivity if you can get away from the
Exactly. And that's exactly the point. When we've been traumatized, when we get stressed, we work harder, right? We go into the working harder mode, doing more of what we used to do to survive, which is push harder, take on more, be more busy, right? We can kind of become addicted to that state a little bit of being, but to recognize, and that's where in the beginning, having a schedule, like planning my week out and my day out was very, very important to me, because my automatic body survival, no, the more the merrier, right? Give me all that stuff. But what goes off the list is my meditation, my walks, my yoga, all the self-care, planning, taking a minute to eat my meal without any distractions, right?
Right.
And exactly. But the self-care piece can't be as simple as placing your hand on your heart. Right? That's one of my go-to when a lot of my clients, well, I'm too busy, Slava. I can't be adding a lot of things. I'm like, I get it. We have to slowly make room for it. Right? But that's what also starts to happen. The more room you start to make for it, the more you recognize I'm actually more productive. Right? I'm not as distracted when I am actually doing the work, because I've taken the time to actually be in my body, to calm down my nervous system, to, turn down the volume on the chatter in my mind, so it isn't distracting me as much, like this fly hovering around your head.
Right. This feels really good, by the way, to just have the hand on the heart. If you're listening or watching, try it out.
And what research shows us, I'm a huge fan of Kristen Neff, Dr. Kristen Neff, her self-compassion guru, her methods. We have research now that tells us, just by placing your hand on your heart, and this felt uncomfortable for me in the beginning, this kind of intimacy with myself, this kind of closeness with myself, my body rejected it. It didn't feel safe. So I had to slowly learn. So if we have complex trauma, be gentle with yourself, right? Coming into your body that has not been a safe place takes time. Right. So be gentle. But once you take more and more time, feel the warmth from your hand on your heart, on your skin. This is you caring for you. And this is what the body understands. The body understands warmth. You may even hear in my voice, right? I'm starting to talk in a soothing tone. Your nervous system responds to that. Your inner child responds to that.
Yes. Like you can feel the wave of the nervous system start to just smooth out into a nice, comforting lull.
Yes.
Like a lullaby.
Yes. And the thing is, just as powerful as our bodies are to protect ourselves, to keep us safe, right? To disconnect from our pain if we have to just check out, leave the body, just hover out here for a little bit if it gets too much. You are just as hardwired for nurturing. Your body responds to it. But it's a practice, right? It is a practice. So if you even just start with 2 minutes, and if you have your device, most of us are not far from our devices, to have your phone ring 3 or 4 times during the day. Give yourself that self-compassion break. Even if you're in the office, put your hand on your heart and just hold it there for a minute and this is me here caring for myself. I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. It actually gets those feel-good hormones going in your body, activates your parasympathetic nervous system, the part that brings us out of fight or flight, into rest, into digest, into social engagement, into our wanting to connect with other humans, with other beings. Very simple, but oh so powerful. So this is how I try to start my day. Before I even put my feet out of my bed, my eyes open. I'm grateful for just being alive. And I place my hand on my heart.
Very nice.
And I set the intention for my day. I'm leading from my heart.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Okay, now I feel like we can begin.
All right.
Oh, it was beautiful.
Yes. It feels nice, doesn't it? So I hope anybody who's watching or listening tries it. Just notice.
I hope you were doing that with Svava during that time. And if you're listening to the recording, you can back it up and hang out there. It's very nice.
Good. 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 So I'm open for any comments or questions from our listeners or from you around this. But I mean, just what we were just doing right here, we were listening to ourselves.
Right. Okay, I'll throw out a question. So what about when we start this practice, if it doesn't feel safe or if it brings up some loud chatter or some screaming or, those inner voices that can sometimes come up before we're able to spend 2 minutes with the hand on the heart, breathing and settling in. What do you recommend there?
Any response from your body is information, right? It's information that is needing validation. Most of the time, it's a part of us that needs acceptance, right? And nice. So I try to address all those aspects of myself when they come up, and I suggest and offer this to my clients, is like, what if this is a good friend?
Mm.
What if this is a friend? He's been here or she's been here for a long time, trying to protect you, trying to keep you safe. So he, you know, this part of this voice isn't here because it isn't helpful. It's maybe their tone and words that are not so helpful, right? But it's actually trying to keep you safe. It's doing, right? It's part of you who's been operating in your nervous system and part of you for a long time. So, and it's good to attend to it, because we don't want to push, we don't want to plow over this part because it's right here, right? Then we're just doing more of the same. Then we're just pushing through something that is asking us in this moment to be seen and to be heard. So ask that part. I always start by first just acknowledging it. Wow, I hear you. I see you. I can feel you. Thank you for showing up.
Yes.
And really just talking to it in terms of, you know, you are working so hard to keep me safe. So now that I'm trying something different, I'm sure it doesn't feel safe to you. So even just notice how just communicating with it, just validating it, how does that feel in your body? And for most of, you know, the people that I talk to and walk through this, they're kind of shocked that just by turning to it and acknowledging it, something actually settles.
Nice.
But it goes from being like a resistant energy to like, oh, wow, thank you. You saw me.
Yes.
You heard me. You felt me.
Yes. Yes. Now, one of the things that I found helpful, and you can weigh in on this, is to also just say, you know, I'm here with you as best I can be in this moment, and you don't have to be fixed first. I think that's one of the messages that we learn as children, is that if you're somehow, you know, which we always, or, you know, I think we tend to have this imprinting that we're not okay, and that we're, you know, that we can't have acceptance and love until we get okay. So we think we have to fix ourselves first. But tuning into that place and saying, you know what, you are loved as you are. I see you, I hear you, and I'm here with you as best as I can be. And I'm going to keep trying, you know, and we're going to get better at this together. And we don't have to be fixed first.
Exactly. Because there's nothing wrong.
Exactly.
There's nothing wrong with you. You are just here, a creation as an outcome of, you know, events in the past. And this is best effort, always best effort. So thank you for the trust, for showing yourself, risking being seen by me, risking being rejected by me.
Right.
So no, and I mean, this is what we do in our culture too. We always go in the fixing mode right away, the problem solving, telling people what to do, instead of just being with what is happening right here, right now, in between you and me, between you and your resistance.
Right. Listening, reflecting,
yes,
being together in a space of love. Yeah. Beautiful.
And keep asking. It's like, what does this part of you need? Yeah, like you said, I'm doing the best I can, right? I'm really curious, wanting to learn to love our body now, being more loving and caring for us, because we live in this body together. So what do you need?
Nice.
Right?
Yes. I can feel my body saying, yes. Oh,
yes. Exactly.
I hope you all can too. And if anyone has a question for Svava and that you would like to, like some support with, feel free to type it into either the chat or the Q&A. Oh, there are some in the Q&A. I'm sorry. Let me go there. Okay. So it says, if we have family members who we believe have been abused, but we personally haven't been abused, then could we also be holding the energetics of the abused family members? Many people want to identify me as having been abused, but I have not and do not have any recollection of abuse. Did you catch all that? Do you need me to read any part of it again?
No, it's okay. I'm rereading it here for myself before I answer. Well, and the key here is that we believe, right? We don't know for certain, right? So I think that, sometimes, believing it is enough. So, I mean, honor what you sense for yourself. But I do think that if we grow up in a family of trauma, yes, it is definitely felt by the family. Most of our trauma is multi-generational, and it can go into different forms through different generations. Like I know in my family, I know now that my stepfather was horribly sexually abused and physically abused. I know, my mom was emotionally abused when she was growing up, and I know my grandmother went through abuse. So, trauma impacts all of us. And so we often say in our circles, and I know Debra's heard this, is like either we are passing through the multi-generational trauma, or we are the ones stopping it. And so usually, and that's to say then when we are healing ourselves, we aren't just healing ourselves. We are usually healing, past generations as well. So do the best you can to be loving and compassionate with the people around you. Do your best to be as loving and compassionate and understanding of yourself for whatever may have happened in your family. And I think if we can be around other people without judgment, without putting shoulds on them about how their healing should look like or what they should be doing, be a sounding board. Accept them exactly where they're at. Trust and believe in them that they will find their path when they are ready. It doesn't say that you are supposed to be there as someone to dump on or to be made responsible for their hurt or their pain. And that's where, having your own boundaries and communicate with care what you want for this person. But I think most importantly for us just to focus on ourselves, lead by an example, be the change. If you were that person, how would you be living your life to the best of your ability, and go do that. Show them how.
Yeah. Beautiful. Can I add something to that?
Yes, of course.
It's like you say, just lead by example, be the example, honor your truth, what you know is true for you, because someone else may have their perceptions or perhaps be projecting or seeing through something. When you say, I guess many people want to identify you as having been abused and you don't have that recollection. If you know that, or you feel like there's a projection there, honor your truth and know what's true for you. Let yourself just settle into that and hold it. And let their projections be about them or their feelings, because we never really know what lens they're looking through. And, it may be something that they're dealing with. And, just to add a little bit of the science in, I know there was a study done at Emory University it was done on our poor little mice or rat friends, that with trauma, where there was actually a trauma introduced to I'm going to call them mice because I don't remember, but to the mice, whereas if there was a smell introduced that they were attracted to, and when they would go toward the smell, they were shocked. And it was introduced to the point where all they had to do was introduce the smell, and their impulse to go toward the smell just created the shock, even without this shock having to be administered, right? So they were conditioned to this, and then they were bred. and their offspring exhibited the same response when they introduced the smell without having to administer the physical shock, and their offspring and their offspring. And it went multi-generations. And, you know, in our human, one of the things about being human and this thing that we have called free will and choice, and that is we have that same pattern, I believe, that, you know, that's part of why we do these studies on these poor little animals, but we do have the same patterning that is passed down through generations. And as human beings, we do have the opportunity to heal things for our lineage, for our ancestors, you know, and just looking again, you know, scientifically speaking, the egg that produced you from your mother's womb was actually developed in her mother's womb, right? When you were developed, when your mother was developed in the womb, all of her eggs were you know, came into being when she was inside her mother. So, you know, there's a lot of like memory that's held in the DNA that's passed through generations like this. And so we never really know for sure where things are coming from when we don't have a recollection of something that is perhaps exhibiting patterns, right? When we're exhibiting patterns or noticing patterns in other people of things, and there's not the recollection. It could be suppressed memory, or it could be, you know, generational. It could be, you know, ancestral lineage, and you know, we just don't really know for sure. But we do know that we can be in the here and now. We can be present with what is. We can honor the truth that we do know inside of ourselves, and we can keep doing our inner work, because no matter what you've been through or what you recall being through, there's always an opportunity for inner work. And there's always that opportunity to break patterns, especially those that have been handed down, that, you know, or that are part of the family dynamic. Because, you know, that's another thing with the family dynamic. There is an exchange of energy and flow of energy that moves through all of the systems and all of the units within the group. And when one person shifts, the way that energy flows through them and around them, it affects the entire flow of energy for the whole dynamic, the whole group.
Absolutely. So. Absolutely. And I mean, and the same is to be said about healing, right? It's like, just like we pass down trauma, we can also pass down healing. And I say, I mean, my youngest is 16 and I have adult daughters, and I just started my healing when I was pregnant with my oldest.
Wow.
I see my trauma in her. Right? I see some of my coping mechanism in her and how she handles her life. But what I do, we have a beautiful relationship, you know, with her today. I see her perfectionism. I see, you know, all the things that I used to do. I see it in her, but I talk to her about it. Right. And I talk to her about, you know, how does that feel, right? When you're doing that. And as I have continued to do my healing, and I continue to evolve, right? And I continue to raise my energy to stay more in peace and joy and love, those higher vibration. Don't live as much in fear or shame or guilt. I am also lifting up, like you said, my closest family member, my children. And I know my children stand on the shoulders of the healing that I have done.
Yes,
so,
beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, I started my healing for them because I was like, okay, I'm going to make sure I don't miss this, right? That I won't pass it on. And then I realized, oh, wait a minute. It is through my embodiment, my integration of my healing is how I help my children.
And that's really beautiful because, you know, or just as being in a human body on planet Earth, we encounter things that separate us from ourselves in one respect or another, whether it's the thing we call trauma or not, you know, or just like an unpleasant interaction, right? We have those things that cause us to go off, and you're modeling for them and teaching them and patterning them with very healthy ways to move through that. And that's a beautiful gift. Beautiful gift.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, You know, there's nothing we don't talk about. I mean, we talk about our feelings. We have our feelings. I have cried in front of my children. I have gotten angry in front of my children, right? And if I have made mistakes as a parent, I have apologized, right? Oh my gosh, if I had gotten an apology, you know, if those people that did me harm had leaned in and said, I'm so sorry. That wasn't me being my best self, or, right? So, so absolutely. And that has healed them, that I have sat and listened and accepted when I have hurt them. I make it okay for them to come and to express their hurt. I don't say, no, that's not true, because this makes me uncomfortable. Right? No, like, no, I was a good mom. Right? Exactly. So I'm like, yeah, you're absolutely right. I was there. I remember. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I really wish, you know, right? I don't go into talking much. I sit and listen. I'm just like, I hear you. Thank you for telling me. I'm so sorry. I can see how much that hurt you.
Yeah. So, no, just, you know, take a minute and think about what your life would have been like if you had a parent, or maybe you did have a parent. I don't think too many people actually, I mean, I think that's more the exception than the norm, but hopefully it's becoming more of a norm for people, because people like you are sharing your experiences and your tools and techniques. So it's a beautiful thing.
Thank you.
We have a couple of more questions. So I want to go to the next one on the Q&A box, and then to the one in the chat. So this one says, I'm part of Svava's RYAS group.
It's Releasing Your Authentic Self group. It's a book, I mean, a group that I have for the readers of my book.
Excellent.
So we go through that daily together. So
beautiful. That's a beautiful book.
Thank you.
Okay. So she says, when first connecting with her, placing my hand on my heart and or butterfly hugs was uncomfortable, but sitting with the uncomfortable feelings and accepting those feelings made it now my go-to. Am I reading that right? My go-to needed?
Go-to as needed. Yeah.
As needed. Okay.
I know Lady Leo, and I appreciate her so much being here with us. Yeah, she was not the only one in the beginning when I was encouraging people, because I also when I'm live on YouTube and people are sharing some hard things, I often will put my hand on my heart, because that's how I comfort myself. This is my self-compassion act for myself when I'm hearing some really hard things about people being hurt or people struggling or life being hard. So this is how I self-soothe. And I model that for the people that work, you know, with me. And I can see, and I mentioned that in the beginning, sometimes this feels uncomfortable because we're not comfortable with giving ourselves care, right? Because we mentioned that inner resistance, that part of us that thinks we're not good enough, that we're not worthy of love, or your body simply, it does not feel safe to let anybody touch me, not even myself. So it's all those different, you know, aspects of trauma that we're dealing with. But just like Lady Leo shares so beautifully, is that over time, and she's not alone, because I do this a lot, over time, it becomes automatic that, you know, people in the group start to do this, to comfort themselves. And she's also talking about the butterfly hug that I think some other people are familiar with. It's basically you cross your hands and then you place, and you tap on your shoulders. It's you cross the midline of the brain, and then you're tapping, take turns. And so basically it activates the parasympathetic nervous system.
Nice.
So if you just do this for a few minutes, I can feel it immediately. It just kind of like helps your body.
Yeah, that's really nice.
So it's another one of those tools that I've picked up along the ways.
Beautiful. This is similar to a mudra for courage, I believe, too.
To hold yourself. You could also do this by crossing the hands and laying them on your knees, like on your lap.
Okay.
It does the same thing. I tell people, if you're in a meeting or doing a webinar and you're a little nervous and you don't want anybody to see it, you can be tapping your You can be self-soothing, helping your nervous system to calm down a little bit.
Nice. All right. Sit here and do this for a while. That feels really good too.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you for bringing that one in, Miss Lady Leo. Okay. I want to go to the chat. It says, is it okay to TRE tremor, or do I need to limit it per the resiliency toolkit, which I know you're familiar with, and you can say what that is if you'd like.
Yes.
I don't resonate with that toolkit. Okay. Also, is it common for one to leave their body and not be able to get back in?
Well, let me start by the first part. Is it okay to tremor? Well, I don't facilitate the resilience toolkit. I've been through their process and I really appreciate what they're teaching in it. For some TRE, if people are new to TRE, tension and trauma release, I'm a certified provider, and it's been a huge part of my healing and my self-care. Actually, really the piece that actually really allowed me to integrate so much of what I already knew about trauma to really help to down-regulate my nervous system, because I've been living in fight or flight my whole life. So coming into my body took me a long time because my body didn't feel safe and it didn't trust, even me to come into it. So TRE was a powerful tool. It took me twice as long as most people to become a provider because I needed to go very, very slow. So it's a powerful self-help tool that helps you to activate the part of your nervous system that knows how to calm down after stress, after a stressful episode, after long-term trauma, by activating tremors in the body. It's from your autonomic nervous system. So for most of us with complex trauma or, child abuse, I recommend starting with a practitioner, but there are ways you can learn and do it on your own. So to answer your question is, trust yourself, listen to your body. What do you feel safe and equipped to do when it comes to starting to tremor? For people where starting the tremoring is too much in the beginning, I use the butterfly hugs. I use the self-compassion tool. I also use just running your hands down your shoulders, down your arms. It's the same thing. It activates the part of your nervous system, parasympathetic. Because the tremoring, it's better to do when we're already grounded, when we're already a little bit present and feel in touch with our bodies enough to be able to regulate what happens, especially in the beginning, because we're doing something new in the body that feels out of control. And if that's not a comfortable, safe feeling for you, you may be a little nervous doing it. So, but once you understand, like, I can lay down anytime and let my body shake, and I'm not worried about it. I trust the process. I know I'm in control of it. I know I can stop it at any time. So I let my body do what it needs to do. So trust yourself. I would encourage you to keep exploring it, because I also know for some of us in the beginning, we may resist some of the things that, would be good for us in the long run, but listen to, like we talked about earlier, once we start being kind to ourselves, that voice, that resistance, honor that. Honor that resistance. Ask your body, what does it need? What does it need for you to stay at home in it, right? And to work with whatever tool you're using in a safe way, because safety is key, right? That's what the healing journey is all about. It's about becoming and feeling safe and trusting in our own bodies. So the second question, is it common for one to leave their body? Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, because I'm thinking of, and sometimes in the healing process, and one of the, I think, tricks where it's really helpful to have someone to
co-regulate,
help you. Yeah. Sometimes,
yes.
Is because sometimes we can get caught in a loop of, okay, my body's having this response, and then we start looping in it rather than actually letting it do what it needs to do and then release and settle us. So is with the tremors, can that have that same effect? Does it offer that same opportunity, shall we say?
So that you get stuck in a pattern?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
rather than having it actually help you to move through something and settle.
And any tool that
Mm-hmm.
we use can do that, can help you get either stuck in it, right? Because we're all about patterns.
Mm-hmm.
Humans, we like patterns, right? And so sometimes we will find a way to work with a certain tool. And if I just give you an example with TRE, when I find myself that my tremors are showing up the same way over and over and over again,
mm-hmm.
I will do an intervention, meaning I will be intentional about changing something that I'm doing, or I will call in and go see a practitioner, right? I'll go do it with someone because I've been experiencing it like this, but this is what's happening consistently. You know, I'm stuck in this holding pattern, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
I may need something else to be introduced to help shift it, to either go deeper or to modify the tremors in going in a different direction. So
nice. Okay.
Is that helpful? So it's like having, and even just having another person in the room, like that was for me in the beginning, because I did not feel safe in my body. I did not feel safe tremoring alone for a long time. Even just having a friend or a family member in the room with me helped my body. Okay, there's somebody here. There's another body that I'm pinging off of until I feel
or
safe.
Someone that, you know, if you start to go into a place that you feel like is dangerous for you and you can't get out of, there's somebody that can help you.
Yes. Yeah.
And
that's with any healing tool that we're using. We always should be guided to use it in our capacity to self-regulate it. Right. And that's where going slow, sometimes frustratingly slow, is very, very important. So important.
Yeah.
So thanks for asking that.
Beautiful. Okay. Now part 2 of that question. Is it common for one to leave their body and not be able to get back in?
I don't know if you want to address that. I can. I don't particularly focus on DID or dissociative identity disorders, but I know from experience that I left my body through traumatic events, and I also know for a long time I would just go through the day barely being present. But I think for the most part, we do find our way back. But it shows up differently for different people. And like I said, I'm not an expert in it to give you any more advice on that. But I also think to remember, it is a coping strategy. It is your body doing what it needs. If something feels too overwhelming, that it disconnects you and literally checks out. And I mean, we daydream. There's a spectrum, right? Even from just driving from place A to B, and we're like, well, how did I get here?
How did I get here? Yes.
Yeah, I just remember getting in my car, right?
Yeah. And you made a grocery list, and you made it. I mean, even if you're not in a trauma state, right?
Exactly. To a place where people report that having a car accident, they actually do remember. It was like they left the scene, or they were hovering above the accident.
Right.
But again, it's, working with your body, taking your time, being gentle as you're coming back into caring for yourself. You're helping your body, reconnecting, and you reconnecting with your body.
And maybe this is a good time to look at at titration. For example, if there's something that is causing you to leave your body, maybe you can look at baby steps.
Exactly. And see what's the pattern there? What is it that sets you off, right? Are there people, circumstances, situations, and then maybe being able to predict, which I know when we have PTSD, sometimes we have no idea. What are the things in the environment? Because our body is like a speaker. It's constantly receiving information from the environment, whether we're aware of it or not. Most of it is happening right under our eyeballs, right? And then we have no idea. Why do I have this gut feeling, right? It's like, okay, all right, maybe something is reminding me of the past that I'm checking in mindfully. No, I'm okay. I'm safe now. This, I'm going to trust this is okay. Right.
Yeah.
To remind ourselves there's so much that we have habitually, you know, we live out of today, but yet it came from the past, right? And it's unresolved. And again, that's where I love TRE, because it helps to let go of some of that tension. I mean, I had a lot of pre-verbal abuse, and through TRE, I've been able to release tension that, you know, no talk therapy was ever going to help me resolve.
Right. I wasn't going to reach. Yes. And what was that? I was just going to ask another question related to that. Oh, I was actually going to add that if that's happening in a session with a practitioner where, you know, that's happening where you're leaving your body, I think that might be what you're referring to there, that, you know, you just might start to notice what are the signs that it's about to happen, so that you can look at, okay, where is it coming from in my body? And when that starts to happen, then, you know, how can I maybe, you know, pay some particular attention to that and reach for something that can keep me from going all the way out of my body, so that I can start to gather more information. And then, you know, again, baby step.
Yeah, to do some grounding, you know, maybe have a little safety plan for yourself. And for a long time, I carried in my purse a few flashcards actually, that I had written out with things that once I could feel my body starting to dissociate a little bit. I was, you know, something had happened and I'm making it mean that I did something wrong. I'm in trouble. You know, I'm the broken one, you know, starting to pull inward. I would pull out my flashcards and I would read through those sentences, and I would have a little, essential oil that helped me to stay grounded. And I had a favorite crystal that helped me to stay grounded. But it's very often, for what worked really well for me was to read some of those sentences. So that really helped me bring back to inner focus instead of focusing so much outwards.
Nice. That sounds wonderful. So you had your own little toolkit that you carried in your purse.
I still have that. Yeah. I mean, it was so important to me during that time of my healing that I still keep it. I still have it, because it was like my anchor to, okay, I'm not going to lose control. I'm not going to just completely check out or feel crazy here. It would actually be something that was really helpful for me to bring me back into the present moment.
Oh, beautiful. You know, and it just reminded me, you were talking earlier about, you know, doing the, for the people who are on the phone, what she demonstrated was putting your hands, crossing your hands, left hand to right shoulder, right hand to left shoulder, and just running your hands down your arms, just to, you know, that cross body. And then it's very comforting. One of the things, actually, you see my cat is clinging to me like Velcro right now. I just got last night into town after being out for 2 weeks, and I was in a workshop, and one of the things that we did was use these very comforting flat stones, kind of like stones you would use they were similar to the ones you would use in a hot stone massage, which is what it reminded me of, made me want a hot stone massage. But, you know, just comforting smooth flat rocks, or, you know, smooth stones, and running those down the sides like that. And it was so grounding. There was a special, like, connection to earth elements, I guess, that was very comforting in that. So perhaps that could be something in your toolkit as well.
Yeah, and I carry these around now, those little red heart stones.
Nice.
I have a bunch of them, and I kind of tend to leave them where I see the world needs a little love right now.
Oh, nice.
But I will often put these in my pocket just to kind of rub and to hold on to remind myself that, yeah, I am loved. We are loved. There's nothing but love. Right? That's what really holds us here, right?
Yes. It's not just a Beatles song, it's real.
Exactly. So, you know, find something that, you know, that you connect with.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. So there's just one last clarifying question, and then we'll wrap up for today.
Okay.
And I'll I'll let you tell us a couple other things before you go, though. All right, what did the flashcards say? Did you share about what they actually said?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, they said a few things. One of them was, I learned to be this way. I am learning to be different. I am different because, right, it was my worst fear that I was like the people that hurt me. And so, and also reminding myself that I am healing. One of them said, what other people do is about them. It's not about you. That was a biggie because I was very outwardly focused, worried about what people thought about me. I always thought I was the one causing any or all problems. So that was very helpful. Those are the two ones that really stick with me. And then one more, I wrote out, you know, I am, you know, or my name is, I am Slava Brooks and I am enough.
I love it.
So those were the three that really stick up, but I had probably like 10 of them. So maybe I'll pull them out. And but again, any mantras that are helpful and supportive to you. And I think the other one too, because for what was really important for me, because I never felt heard. And I know that's for a lot of survivors, we don't feel heard. That, you know, I hear you and I believe you. So
beautiful.
So those were some of the things that I had in my toolkit. I
hear you and I believe you. Yes. What a gift to give to yourself. Oh, okay. Well, thank you so much, Svava. This has been very helpful, wonderful words of gentle, loving kindness and care and compassion and wisdom. Thank you for sharing it with us. Can you tell people if they have any other questions or want to get in touch with you, how to reach you?
Absolutely. Sure. And thanks again, Debra, for having me. It's just, you know, you and I, we could sit all day long talking about these things, right?
We could. Yes.
Yes, exactly. So thank you so much. Really appreciate being here, and to all of you listening and watching. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You can find me on my website, svavabrooks.com. And I'm, you know, maybe you've seen my name written up. I'm just going to hold up the book. So the spelling of my name is a little tricky, but you can find my website where you can, where you can find me. And I also have a couple online groups, and I have a YouTube channel where I'm usually twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, where I chat with anyone who has any questions about healing and recovery and the readers of my book. So I love to do that. And then, you know, supporting people one-on-one through TRE. I'm a big fan of inner child work, and I teach mindfulness and self-compassion. Actually, just going to be promoting my mindfulness group that is starting the beginning of March. So anybody is interested in that, let me know. Just here to serve people, because ultimately, if I figured out how this body works, there is hope for all of us. We have the same systems. So just learning to work with what we have is very, very helpful. So, and if I can assist in any way, it is always a privilege.
Beautiful. You've been a beautiful role model and a way shower and a path carver. Forgetting what that word is called. The one who creates the path, shows the way.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Trailblazer. Yes.
Trailblazer. Thank you. Yes. So good comments that saying, I believe you, so powerful. Thanks very much to Svava and to Debra and Trailblazer. Yes. Trailblazer.
I've been called that a few times. So thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much. All right. And anyone listening to the recording, if you have questions or need support, please get in touch with Svava. If you're seeing this on Facebook, I will get it onto Facebook. Then just put a comment for either one of us in the comments under the video and tag us, so we'll see it and we can respond to you.
Beautiful.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you all for being here, and have a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful week.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.